I think we're live. I'm just checking if everything's working here. Yeah, I think there's audio. Can someone confirm in the comments if there's audio? I think there's audio. Yeah, but basically, welcome to the stream. It's kind of I guess it's like the third time ever in my life that I live stream anything. So if anything goes wrong, then you know it's all new. So I'm also going to be a little bit like on edge with streaming because I'm not super advanced in it. But hopefully, as the stream goes on, I'll get more and more comfortable and hopefully forget that, not that you guys are there, but that the camera is there and all the system is there and all that kind of stuff. The goal for the stream, if that makes sense, is kind of just to go through a little bit of world building. There's probably, I can see there's currently 15 of you guys watching, so that's super awesome. Maybe some of you guys can write like why you are here. That would be kind of interesting. Like, where are you guys coming from? Are you coming from Reddit? Are you coming from YouTube? Are you a subscriber and you just saw the stream and you're like, I'll check that out? Or where are you guys from? That'd be super interesting to hear. But I've kind of been thinking just I'm not super good at uploading super regularly, but I think maybe doing something like a stream, I can do that once a week or something, and use it as a method of chilling. And I would love to chill more with the community because there's a lot of people still I'm in contact with, through Reddit or through YouTube or through Discord or whatever. And I would love to have an opportunity to just talk to you guys a bit more. So that's kind of the goal of the stream. And then I just happen to be doing a lot of kind of world building and drawing and stuff for my own project, which is this project called Black Horizon, which you may or may not have seen, but I'm guessing most of you have probably seen it. So that's kind of the goal for the stream, is just to go through some world building. And I kind of had the idea for this particular stream to do a little bit of world building on this specific part of the world called the Chorus Consortium. And they're kind of these religious, somewhat dark faction in the universe. And I've done a bunch already, but I haven't tied that, like I haven't done enough. I'm kind of in a big what's that called, like a big run of like doing a lot of world building specifically right now for the world. That's just the kind of time I have right now, so that's great. And I've kind of gotten to want to figure out the Chorus Consortium a little bit more, so that's kind of exciting. So I got a few different modes here. I got like a live scene or one like this, like this, and then I'm down here in the corner, and then I can have Photoshop, and I can use that just for sketching out some ideas and talking a little bit. And I also kind of want to show some things that I'm working on just in general. But the big goal is kind of just to deal with the Chorus Consortium. And for everyone watching, like, you are super welcome to just ask questions. I will try to keep chat over here on. I actually have it on 2 monitors just so I keep an eye on it, because I'm not super used to, looking at it a lot. But I will try to keep an eye on it, and I really want to answer questions. I would love to. I would love to discuss something, or if you want to see something either from the world or from techniques or something that you're interested in seeing, then. And it can literally be anything. You can also ask me where I live. You can ask about my family. You can do whatever you want. But I am gonna be doing world building, and then whatever else. That's why it's called world building and stuff, right? So that's kind of the stuff. Like, what's going on here? So who's writing here? Stellar Elite from Toronto. Found you on Subbed while looking for world building content, and a few months back. Love your stuff. That's mighty kind of you. Appreciate it. Sorry if that posted twice, got a weird. No, it's just there once, so that's all good. Alex Spiner, first time seeing this project, looks fantastic. Awesome. Can't wait to show you more. Watched a few spots post on Reddit. Great. did I go to university from Timmy Lind? Yeah. Like, do you? Did I go to university? Yes, I did go to university. Are you thinking about anything specific with the university? Like, is there a reason you're asking, or I guess you're just curious. So I went to a school in. So I live in Denmark. I'm from Denmark, and there's a school in Denmark called the Animation Workshop, which sounds like it's about animation, and that's traditionally what it was about. But it's actually it's a bachelor's degree where you can either do animation, graphic storytelling, which is kind of doing like comic books and stuff, or a line called computer graphics arts. And the computer graphics arts line is basically an education where you learn Maya, so like the 3D program Maya, and you learn a bunch about the whole kind of animation film, VFX pipeline. So you learn to use those kind of tools, and then many people use it to also learn about making games and stuff. It was a pretty good school, I would say, for sure. And it's kind of, in the first year you get introduced to a bunch of stuff. The second year you kind of build upon that knowledge from the first year, and then in the third year you do one big project for a year, which I think they changed now, but that was kind of the thing. You do that, and then basically all the students, they pitch a project, and then you all vote for which project should be selected. Then the school selects some, and I happened to pitch a project which was a sci-fi short film. And then we made that, and we actually made it in Unity as like a real-time film. So that's kind of what's happening there. So yeah, so I did go to university. I think we can just find it here online. The animation workshop. I just show it. Yeah, this was the school basically. It changed a little bit since I went there. I went there in 2016 until 2020 kind of. And I did this line here called Computer Graphics Art. It's still a really nice school, and it has a bunch of international students. Like, and this is actually my film right here. So we did this like we did this film with all these like creatures, mechanical creatures walking through environments and stuff. And there was this main protagonist, and it was basically just a trailer. That's what we could do. But we were learning a bunch of new software like Unity and this kind of stuff. And then we were creating all these environments and just learning a bunch of things. And it's not really anything super special, but it was definitely very fun to make. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's where I went to university. But mostly my job and stuff, and what I did professionally after school, was actually doing visual development and concept art for games and films, mostly for games. And that's just something the school teaches you that a little bit, but it's not a concept art school. So I kind of just learned that on the side, and we were a couple of students who were really interested in that. So we just practiced, I guess, and I have a year of training in like classical drawing also, so like life drawing and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's on the university front. There we go. That was a longer question. Found you on Reddit several months ago and have been following Black Horizon there at YouTube since. Love work. Awesome. We should make a tutorial on how to animate, just a general. I mean, there's the one there's the T-Rex one, but I'm not really an animator. I actually have a friend who's making a video about not necessarily how to animate, but on how to make a whole animation film by yourself. So that's coming up. And then if you want to learn to animate, then I think, is his name Alex Grigg or something? I just want to see if I can find that. Alex Grigg. If you're genuinely looking for learning to animate, then Alex Grigg is actually a really good resource. Yeah, this one here. Alex Grigg Animation for Anyone. The way he goes through the principles. Oh, okay. Something just His videos are really well made and well told and super digestible. I recommend that for a good foundation. Yeah, that's on the animation front there. Greetings. Oh, okay, there's a lot of people writing here. Are you allowed to say what games and films you made content for? No, I am not. It depends, because most of the stuff is under NDA. Let's see, is there anything? It depends if there's something that's been released. What has actually been released? Wait, let me just know that hasn't been released. No, I don't think. I don't actually think I've worked on a single thing that I can talk about. But I have worked on some smaller stuff, and I worked on some AAA stuff. But otherwise, I can't say anything else. Sorry about that. That's also why I'm doing my own things, because that way I can talk to everyone about it, and that's also more fun for me. So, greetings from South Africa. That clip you just showed of your work looks fantastic. That's awesome. If you want to check it out, it's called The Artificial Condition. The Artificial Condition. I just had to ask, since I love your content and I was a bit curious. Okay, wait. Was it... I can't read this message here. Why can't I read it? Was it... Oh, what does the message say? It doesn't want to show me because it's kind of like blocking the... Was it hard to get into that school? Was it hard to get into the school? No, I mean, I think for some people it is, for sure. I would say it's it is skill based. Kind of, you can't just pay and then you'll get a seat, right? You have to have a portfolio. But I think if you kind of know what you're doing, then it's actually not that hard. But if you're very green and you don't really have anyone to guide you, then it can be hard. And there are people who try 6 times before getting in or something like that, right? But that doesn't mean that that's necessarily a bad thing. But I got in on the first try, but I was also maybe I was a little bit more advanced than some of the students when I came there. But otherwise it was fine. Deep Rock Galactic question mark. I just keep answering questions. I also need to get back to doing what the stream is about, but maybe this is interesting enough, but that's also great. And I have considered, because some people have commented on my voice, and this is not like a self-indulgence kind of thing, but some people said that specifically they found my voice very soothing. So if there's any of you guys out there, I really want to know, because I'll talk closer to the microphone and make it real cozy. But I always thought my voice was really annoying. I mean, especially when you have to record your own voice for tutorials and stuff, right? You get used to hearing your own voice, and it can become the most annoying sound in the world, just the sound of your own voice. But then the fact that some people seem to enjoy it and found like some kind of relaxation in it, that definitely like removed a lot of not anxiety, but like I don't want to go as far as saying shame, but that's the best word I can find for it right now. Shame with having your own voice be out there. Yada yada yada. I am 28. Yeah, I'm 28, 29 this year. And stuff like that's cool. But I'm gonna get into a little bit of world building. So the big thing right now is that I'm building this world, Black Horizon, right? You all know it. And here's a big reveal for anyone who's interested. I'm currently working on a book about the entire world. And I'm just filling out all this information here. And this is kind of, the stuff that I'm building towards with some of the posts that I've been doing on Reddit, for example, and stuff like that. And I always wanted to do like a big accumulation of the world, and I also had a bunch of people ask if there was a dedicated RPG, like a tabletop role-playing game for the world, because to some people it seemed like an obvious fit or something. So I kind of looked into that a little bit more because I'd kind of been dabbling a little bit in potentially doing it for a different project, and then I was like, oh, maybe I could convert Blank Horizon also to this role-playing thing, and then I was like, maybe I should do a world book also, and then all the Reddit posts started, yeah, etc. But basically, I'm doing this big world book right now, and I've been writing a lot of backstory for the entire world, and these are just placeholder images and stuff. But there's a bunch of new things. And so forth. It's all good if you can't stay here. Very happy that you just checked it out. It'll also be available for replay, Unicorn Tamer. So if you feel like watching it, then you can watch it some other time. And I will be doing it again. So that's great. Yeah. So I'm doing this world building book. So I'm really getting into building stuff for the world. And one of the things that I kind of been wanting to do for a while is just getting a little bit deeper into this specific one, which is the Chorus Consortium, and they have a little bit of visuals tied to them. I just want to see here if where I can find it. I have it somewhere in my folders here. It's gonna be looking around. Somebody wrote Deep Rock Galactic ? Deep Rock, yeah, I played a lot of Deep Rock Galactic. That is a killer game. Hats off to the devs, Ghost Ship Games. It's been a long time since I had so much fun with a game. I think Deep Rock hit a really good spot. Definitely the best co-op game out there right now. Maybe the best co-op game I've ever played, to be frank. Okay, let's see here. Chorus Consortium. I really wanted to do a bigger post on the Chorus Consortium, but I just haven't really gotten it together yet, because I wanted to do a really nice one, and I wanted to make it work, so I kind of put it off for a while, but I think also mostly because I hadn't figured out exactly what I want to do with it. So let's see here. Where is what? Raw here. So some of these images here, so these are some stock images, not stock images, but I guess stock images for Blank Horizon. So images I've made that I can kind of just use in different circumstances. And I made a series of these kind of images. So and they're not like that amazing, but they kind of show off a little bit of just the vibe. And I might do these kind of things kind of fast, just to get me into the mood of what is this faction like, visually, stuff like that. And they, they're very, there's a sense of drama and ritualisticness, or whatever you want to call that, right? With the people like this. And I think I have a faction lineup. And the thing with the Chorus Consortium is that they kind of have they are essentially a religious foundation, a religion, right? And they're kind of serving the same role as maybe the Catholic Church would have served, 1,000 years ago or something like that. The way that they have power in a different way than maybe kings or queens would have had, or lords or whatever. They could also, but they still have a lot of influence on politics and these things. The Chorus Consortium, in a way, for a long time, were very similar to the Catholic Church in that sense, but now they've become more of a direct military power, where they don't necessarily directly govern the systems that they may have infiltrated or occupied. They let local governance happen, but then their religion has such a strong influence on the politics that it ends up becoming them governing, or whatever, if you could call it that. So that's kind of their way of life. Yeah, they kind of have this god called Chorus, and Chorus is not really a god in that they really believe in the manifestation of Chorus so much as Chorus is like an idea. And this is kind of this depiction of Chorus, and they're not necessarily incredibly religious and superstitious, but they use it more as a doctrine of life and like a core ideology or something like this. And that's kind of the idea with the Chorus Consortium. Let's see. I think I have a faction breakdown somewhere here. Let's see. We have this here. Yeah. So yeah. So sometimes I do these like really rough kind of very photo bashy mixed with paint things just to get the idea of the faction. There's also one for the Julian Empire, which kind of looks like this, and I just do these things to figure out exactly what the stuff looks like, and this is kind of that one. Nice. Let's see here. This is the message here I need to read to sync. How do I do this? Like that? What is happening there? Let's see. Okay, we're back. That didn't matter. Cool. Yeah, so I do these like faction breakdown. This is actually a really, really good technique if you are into world building or into doing concept art or whatever the stuff, then, or just generating visuals or whatever. And if you need to get a feeling for a faction, I really recommend doing this like very multilateral kind of quick block out, as opposed to just like drawing a single character. Like I will do this first before I draw a single character. Like, so I actually have an early iteration of this thing that looked like this, you know, which is just to get that thing. And I literally just stole, and this is just for my usage, right? So it's more like reference than anything else. But I'm literally just taking people in pictures, painting on top, getting an idea of what the faction is, and then eventually developing the characters and the stuff more based on those things. And then I'm getting closer and closer to what it is I need, right? And the same thing also for the Chorus Consortium. Then I think it was something like this. This was the first iteration of it or something like that. And a lot of this is and some of the stuff in this is like a little bit better. But this is kind of where it's at now. So the thing with the Chorus Consortium in terms of world building, and maybe there's something interesting to talk about with like how to world build, is that I have some knowledge on the Chorus Consortium, but the way it works with their, let's say, their internal structure is that there is the let's just say the consortium, like this, consortium, and that's kind of the main thing, right? That's the whole thing. Then there are essentially two branches of the consortium. You have the, let's just call it the executive, or let's call it the throne actually, because that's what I'm calling it. There's the throne, and then there is the council, or the, I guess I actually been calling it the council. Maybe it gets a different name, but I've been calling it the council so far. The throne is kind of the executive power. They are the ones that are deciding what the consortium, more or less what the consortium does on a more, let's say, everyday basis, right? So they would kind of be, let's just call it the presidency in a way, right? Presidency, right? They act upon what needs to be done within the consortium. The council, they are a group of kind of cardinals, I guess. Cardinals, and they hold their position for quite long, usually. Cardinals. And they are kind of these more priest monk-like figures who sit and discuss and pray and things and figure out what needs to happen to the consortium long term. They're kind of the ones who are keeping the religion and the consortium alive, and they are also act as ambassadors. So if the consortium wants to spread to a new planet or something like this, they will probably send a cardinal a Consortium Cardinal to that planet as an ambassador to negotiate on that world or something, right? That's kind of the relationship. So they have those two parts of the Consortium. So in terms of world building, then I think there's something really key in trying to figure out these somewhat complicated structures or complicated these like political structures, or how everything is governed and stuff, and how your characters fit into that, because it's going to create a really interesting natural dynamic for the characters. So for me personally, I really like figuring out what kind of system a character fits into, in order to figure out what kind of issues this character might be dealing with, and then those two things kind of go hand in hand, and you bounce back and forth between that. It's like, okay, I'm going to develop the character, then I'm going to develop the system or the place they fit into, then I'm going to develop the character, then the system, and you kind of bounce back and forth between those two things. So you could, for example, imagine like, okay, you have a cardinal, and then what is their relationship to whoever is the president, or the actually in the Consortium it's called the chosen, because they choose someone to lead, to be the kind of the spiritual executive leader of the Consortium. So what is this council member's relationship to that person? And that immediately for me makes designing this kind of a person so much more interesting, because they have somebody on a regular basis they kind of need to maybe interact with or something, beyond their duties as an ambassador or as a carrier of the Consortium. This kind of local struggle makes, I guess, also the story, but also as part of the character design and journey, makes it so much more interesting for me. So that's just like a little tidbit. I like even this simplicity of system is enough for most characters. So, and I do this quite often. I think it can be super helpful. Just looking at some comments here. The Consortium has favorite color scheme, red and black. Awesome. When you're making those photo dashboards, where so you find all the pictures, generally all the suits match but look like they are from different mediums. Right. So I typically just go to Pinterest. I can show you how I might do it. So what I will do is that I will go to Pinterest. I will just go here to home, and then this is Pinterest, right? And then I'll search, maybe I'll just search fashion or something. And then maybe I will get, this one looks kind of cool. So I'll get this here, let's copy this, put this in, scale it up like that. And then maybe I can find something through that that's a little bit interesting. Maybe something like this, but something where I can have the feet. Maybe like this actually. That's kind of interesting. There's something there to work from. I just want to get one more character. Maybe we can make one that becomes an alien or something. Oh, that one's actually, that's pretty cool. Okay, I get these characters here, right? And then I use Photoshop, right? And specifically Photoshop has a really neat feature right now, which is the magic wand. And then there's this feature called select subject. So I'm just going to be on the right layer here and say select subject. And then it's going to do a really cool job in trying to select what is the subject. Right, so I'm actually just going to turn off sample layers and just do select subject. So maybe on this one it's going to have a hard time because it, okay, no, there I got it, right. And it basically selects exactly what you want. It's missing a little bit here, but I can put those selections in by hand. And I used to just sit and do all this stuff by hand, and it was awful. I also want to put some music on at some point during the stream. So maybe I'll take a break at some point and then make that happen. And then I take her and copy paste her out. So now she's free. And then I can do the same thing with the other guy here. Select subject. So I don't know if this makes sense to you guys with like me just jumping away from the main thing and then just answering this question. I will figure out what works over time, but hopefully it's not too jarring. It's a stream after all, so I guess anything can happen. See there, I copy her out and do the same thing there. And now I have these figures just like freestanding, and then I can start to modify them. So I can say, okay, you know what? Actually, I want her to be like a smaller alien. Maybe actually she can be a bigger one. That's kind of fun. And I can put this guy over here. She can be in the middle. Actually, he can be something, but he can be in front kind of, and she can be there in the middle. And maybe she can actually be the same kind of race as this one we had over here. This race right here. They kind of have a similarity already in a way, so that's a little bit interesting. So that's a bit of a taller neck, more kind of it's like skew eyes, they're quite skew there, and she is for all intents and purposes quite human, but she's a different race. She's actually this race called the Vitiate in Black Horizon, which I haven't introduced yet, but yeah. And then I will basically just take this and start painting on it. Let's see here, we got this one. Then I will maybe modify this cloak or something and say, okay, you know what, I want something that goes down here. Maybe I don't want these flowers necessarily in this sense, but I do like the colors. Maybe we'll make them more like these stripes. And then we can do something like this. You know, I'm just trying some stuff here, right? And I'm figuring out this faction. And maybe this is actually a way of figuring out this vitiate. Oh, I kinda like this randomness we're getting from the hair here. So I might just let it do that by itself. Oh. And then maybe I'm doing something like here, like that, etc. And that's kind of just what I'm doing, you know. I'm just taking this and maybe put this down and then do some line drawing on top. It could be that she's a different kind of alien, right? It could be that she's more one with fangs or something, like a Savosi. Like this, you know. And this looks a little bit, you know, kind of jarring now because there's the understructure. But, you know, it's kind of part of it. Let's see. You know, and then I might do like that. I don't want to spend too much time on it, like when it's at this stage, right? I just want to get the feeling for the thing. So I might do that, and then I might come down and use the color that is here, or do a completely new color. Oh, like this. Just putting this in here. Maybe it has a different kind of hairline like that. Actually, her eyes, they kind of fit a little bit like that. Then we could say, oh, okay, then she has some teeth or something. And then maybe I can add a little bit of shadow, just to make everything seem a little bit more how it's supposed to be. You know, I might do something like that, and then I have the alien like that, basically. You know, and this one is not amazing. I don't have a particular alien, but it kind of demonstrates how I might do these ones, right? How is it decided who the next authorities is in each branch, inheritance, selection, what traits, right? So that's going back to the consortium. That's good, keeping me going back to that. That's great. So yeah, so that was that method. Hopefully that made sense. So basically the way it works is that as far as I've figured out, some of these things I haven't figured out yet. I just know that there's the Council of Cardinals, and the Cardinals are the ones who choose the chosen, right? But they choose the chosen based on whoever fits a certain criteria. And the Consortium, they are basically all about survival of the fittest. That means that the strongest individuals have the highest positions in the Consortium. But it's not always that they're the strongest physically. It can be strong in different kinds of fields. But they very much believe in survival of the fittest, which makes them a little bit strangely libertarian, in that it's just like work hard and then you'll get what you are owed, right? And that's kind of how their whole way of life works. Is that it's definitely like a survival of the fittest, and the whole Consortium is about finding the strongest individuals in society, and then all of them submitting to Chorus, the god, and then their old texts basically say that once we find the strongest individuals and put them within the thing, then they have to sacrifice themselves in the name of Chorus, and then their power will go to Chorus, which will matter at the end of time, basically. That's as much as I've kind of figured out. What is it you're making? So Noah Carlson. So I'm doing Worldbuilding for Black Horizon, which is my sci-fi world, essentially. Hey, Tajikistan, Central Asia. Awesome seeing you here. Great. Open. Oh, that's a cool name. Just Open. Yeah, I'm open. I guess. Okay, there's one person called A Stone. That's pretty cool. Oh, A Stone. Oh, I see you already been writing before. That's awesome. A Stone. Nice. Cool. So that's the Consortium. That's how the chosen are selected. And the Cardinals, they are kind of somewhat also maybe chosen by other Cardinals. It's a little bit about being connected. But if you can always challenge a position in the Consortium. That's one of the big things. You can always challenge a position by a means of strength or intelligence or something. And sometimes you can also just be more well versed in the religion of the Consortium, and it kind of becomes this battle where people just prove their valor or worth in front of other individuals in the Consortium, and then you can just take that position. They don't have really official let's say timelines for how long they sit in a certain space. They sit there until basically their reign is challenged. So it's very primal in that sense, very natural selection. You don't leave something until you're old and frail. But this now works on a massive scale, right? There's several billions in the Consortium, so it's a little bit interesting in that sense. So, but all those things I was just talking about, those are some of the things that I've wanted to figure out, and where do we go from there? Actually, let's see. I had been thinking about that there was a few different. So we got the throne, which is kinda, it has the chosen, which is the spiritual executive leader, and we have that, and then the throne also contains maybe kind of like a chosen guard. I don't actually know if that's what they're called, but I'm just kind of deciding this right now. I've always imagined that maybe there's some kind of, like a king's guard or a personal bodyguard or somebody associated with the chosen. Then I know that we have the council, right? We have the council, and they have the cardinals, and then maybe we have lower cardinals also, or something like that. Maybe there's a better word for that. Let's see here, the council, and then there's an aspect of the Consortium called the warriors of the Consortium, or just warriors, and they are kind of the elite fighting force within the Consortium. So elite fighting force. And these people, the warriors of the consortium, they are kind of very unique individuals from across the galaxy who's kind of come to serve under the consortium and prove their strength and valor. So you get a lot of that kind of a type of person who is here. And so those are kind of the different branches, you could say, that are the ones that at least I've thought about. There's also a fleet of some kind, right? There's a consortium fleet, and then there's this specific aspect, which is the citadels. The citadels. So one of the strategies from the consortium is they basically go to a foreign planet, and then they bring a Cardinal. This is a Cardinal right now. C Cardinal. And they bring them to a foreign world, and then they negotiate with the local governance, and then they say, we would like to put an establishment of we would like to put an outpost of the Chorus Consortium here on the planet. And then locally they might be like, okay, we do have some consortium followers, so maybe that's nice. Or maybe they'll be like, no, we don't want to. What do we get in return? And basically what the consortium provides is that they provide these things called citadels. And citadels are these massive monolithic structures. They are maybe, I don't know how tall they are, but they're very big. They are maybe like 800 meters tall or something. Let's just say that for now. I haven't figured out exactly how big these things are, but let's just say 800 meters tall. And they're these massive monolithic structures that sit on the horizon, right? And then people down here. And they kind of put them near settlements or cities somewhere, and that becomes, it's essentially like if you could drop a massive cathedral just in the middle of nowhere from space, and these ones actually have rockets on them so that they can come down from space. They come down like this kind of like that, and then they land. And these massive citadels, and the point of the citadels is that it's a place of worship, but it's also a strategic point on the planet for the consortium, and it kind of contains everything the consortium needs to operate. So it has massive communications relays, it's a defensive position, it houses some fighters and these kind of things. So it provides a certain level of protection for that local area, and that can be really interesting for a potentially vulnerable settlement or something. They can just get this citadel basically for free, right? It does mean that there'll be more consortium members there, or people from the consortium, but they get this protection basically if the consortium gets to share the citadel. And the citadel also filled with all kinds of other things to motivate people into joining the consortium. So it's almost like this whole bottom part is kind of what I imagine built for it's almost like a fun fair, right? Like you're exploring the possibilities within the consortium, and that's this thing called the citadel. So that's a big thing that I've been trying to wrap my head around. I've been trying to do it in Blender in 3D a couple of times, like making the actual model just so I have it. But that whole relationship of the citadel with the other stuff here, right? That's also an aspect of the things, right? So it's a fleet, citadels, and maybe there's some other things. But let's say these 5 things, they are kind of some of the big pillars of the consortium, some of the things that they care about. In addition to this, actually, now that I'm just remembering, they have a secret conduit training program. So if you know the lore of Black Horizon, then you might know what this means, but if you don't, then I'll just give you a quick brief. Conduits in Black Horizon are essentially the super soldiers of this world, right? And they have the ability to interfere with the electromagnetic spectrum, so they can modify how stuff works. Like if you have an electric gun that's electric, then they can modify how it operates. They can make it overheat, make it explode. They can make lightning bolts come from the guns. They can do all kinds of fancy things as long as there's some kind of electromagnetic field to interfere with. And conduits are basically only produced within because the conduits are artificially made. They are not a natural born gift. They are artificially made primarily by the Julian Empire. They're kind of the only ones who have the ability to make conduits. And there are not a lot of conduits because it's very hard to make a conduit, but they are excellent super soldiers and special agents, so they are highly valuable in that sense. And the Julian Empire has maybe been doing that for 300 years or something, and there's only maybe 1,000 of them in the galaxy, maybe between 1,000 and 10,000. I haven't quite decided, but something like that. So they're quite rare, right? Considering there's many billions of people in the galaxy, right? There's hundreds of billions in the galaxy. Then it's very few. The Chorus Consortium also understands the value of these conduits more than anyone else, because several conduits have defected to the Consortium, because one of the mantras of the Consortium is basically survival of the fittest and this kind of like personal freedom. You do what is right for you as long as it's kind of the strongest option, the strongest way or something. Then you are in alignment with Chorus, etc. And conduits tend to be very strong because they're super soldiers. So the whole way of the Consortium kind of just fits them pretty well. So that's kind of why it's also important to them, and they understand that thing. So they have a secret conduit training program where they are trying to recruit more conduits from the Julian army to the cause, and also trying to reverse engineer how to actually make conduits as so forth. And the current chosen for the Chorus Consortium is also an ex-conduit, a specifically very powerful conduit or whatever. So that's kind of the setup right now for the Chorus Consortium, and that's what I'm trying to figure out and dive deeper into, etc. Cool. So yeah, that's what that is there. And one of the things I was thinking about doing was either exploring doing some of these Citadel stuff, or looking into actually just drawing one of these Cardinals. And right now I feel a little bit more like just kind of drawing, and then maybe it could be a good way to also answer some questions or whatever, or at least open up for just asking a bunch of questions. Then now I kind of have the freedom of mind to do that. And I already started doing a little bit here. Let's see, I was doing some block out like this, but I think I'm gonna start from square one and just do a block out. So if anyone's out there with any kind of question or something like that, then please feel free to jump in now and ask something. Can literally be anything, because I'm just going to be starting a character drawing of one of these Cardinals. So let me know. I'm just going to take off my shirt here because it's warm. Oh, damn it. I promise I'll get better at doing these streams. I hope it's not too boring. I mean, it's also okay if it's boring. Then you can just turn it off and watch something that's actually interesting. It's so warm in here. I actually had a fan, but it's somewhere else. Okay, let's see here. So I'm gonna be doing a character, and if you guys are interested in drawing, then we can also talk about that. But I usually like doing a base sketch, and I kind of want to draw one of these Cardinals, and I've actually been having a little bit of a hard time figuring out exactly what they're supposed to look like. But I think I'm just gonna start with a mannequin actually, and use that. And maybe I should, maybe I should do an alien cardinal instead. That might actually be interesting. I think I'm gonna look at my board. For world building, I use this tool called Miro, which is just a big board of everything. And this one is publicly available, by the way. I also have a private one with a bunch of secret stuff on it, but this one's publicly available. And here I have a list of all the races I currently have for the galaxy. And now I'm kind of imagining making a cardinal, but I just want to figure out which race I want to make the cardinal. Maybe Cerata or Serata, or however I want to pronounce that. That actually could be kind of cool, having a character like that. Yeah, maybe that would be cool. I wonder how that would look like as a cardinal. So I'm just gonna take that here, Control C, and so that's kind of what they are like that, and they're gonna be all red probably. Consider the blue four-handed frog guy. Consider the blue-handed frog. Oh, the small one. This guy, the Mammarian. Yeah, he's a cardinal already. So that fits. That fits. He's a cardinal already. I totally love it. Actually, it's kind of interesting with Mammarians. So Mammarians, most of their race are oppressed by the Karban up here. And the Karban are kind of this like more brutalistic warrior race who goes around mostly as mercenaries or just like pillaging and stuff around. And they have basically enslaved the Mammarians to serve them, even though the Mammarians are far more intelligent, but they're also a lot more peaceful in nature. And the Karban are very much the opposite, and these guys have enslaved a huge part of the Mammarian people. And I actually think I have a drawing of that somewhere, which is a little bit interesting actually, because I did like a little concept for how they interact with each other. Let's see if I can find that. That should be over here somewhere. You know, the thing where you just have a billion folders? I'm also making a big effort into not swearing, because YouTube is weird with that, so I actually don't know what I can do and whatever, because usually I swear like a sailor. But maybe I'll throw a few fire trucks in there, here and there, you know. Where's the thing? Somewhere. It's somewhere. Races. There we go. Yes, here it is. Let's open this file here. Open this file here. Yeah, so maybe it's a little bit hard to see, but essentially this is the... Oh, they're called the kabak. What did I call them over here? I called them Karban, but they're the kabak. Wow, you saw that live. That's super embarrassing. Whatever. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. So, but basically, there are the kabak, and they have enslaved the Mammarians, as you can see here. And the kabak, they kind of have this unique thing where lots of their weapons are organic, and maybe you'll see that. If you've seen that post, actually, I did a post on. I'll just show it on my ArtStation instead. I did a post on weapons at some point, and there's this specific weapon that looks a little bit, yeah, you all see it, you all know whatever. But this weapon, which is kind of this organic weapon, and okay, I wrote kabaks there. Okay, so I was consistent with it somewhat. The Tarvu here, the Tarvu gun. And the Tarvu is kind of grown by the Carbox, and they are organic, which makes them particularly annoying for Conduits because they're not really machines, so they're kind of hard to deal with there. And then essentially they have these mammarians run around as kind of fuel people. So they run around and refuel the gun on the battlefield if needed. So that's kind of the relationship between the Kabak and the mammarians. Just as I'm assuming this is what you guys meant with the four-handed frog guy. So that's basically what's going on there. Where the hell did I? Right, so we came from here. Yes. And I think, what was the race? It was the Chirata race. That's what I was trying to get. Chirata race. Over there. So I'm going to grab that thing. And I'm just going to pull it into Photoshop here. Nope, that didn't work. Let's do it from this other one. There we go. I could even just reuse it. I do that sometimes where I'm like a little bit lazy. Then I'll just reuse something, because actually this one already has a somewhat decent pose here. Okay, appreciate Lizard LTD. Whoops. I'm super happy that you found joy in the stuff on the channel. That's that's essentially why it's there, is to share with people, and happy that you found something that you could use. It's I'm not so good at responding to positive comments like that, but I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that it worked out. Oh, actually, then now they have to have legs. And what are their legs like? The legs are probably gonna be maybe like this kind of. Let's see here. So I'm just gonna be drawing out this guy here, and hopefully I can talk about something that's somewhat interesting in the meantime. So the reason why I'm doing world building is just kind of because I've always been doing it, like ever since I was kind of like fairly young. I was doing, wanted to do comics, and wanted to do games, and wanted to do comics again, wanted to do films, then wanted to do games, back and forth, all that kind of stuff. I just always liked inventing the world, and was always fascinated by other worlds and stuff like that. And then I always really liked drawing. I grew up drawing a lot, and I think it was just always kind of clear to me that that was a path I could take somehow. Maybe I could draw, or maybe I don't know. And mostly I thought that that was something you maybe did for comic books or something, or manga or whatever. So I was kind of like not necessarily going that way with my life, but I was just thinking that maybe that's what I would be able to do one day. Or something. I don't think I ever saw anything as an obstacle, like, oh, that's not possible. I just thought I would figure it out at some point. And then I happened across this after high school, or gymnasium in Denmark. Then I was encouraged to go to a school called the Drawing Academy, which was a classical drawing school in the same location as the university I eventually went to, and there I went for a year just doing classical drawing, and that kind of opened my eyes up for drawing even more, which I loved drawing before, but this really cemented the fact that you could actually practice drawing in an academic way, and I think that was the big breakthrough, honestly, that you could so methodically practice something and get better at it. And so I really got into drawing there, and I think that led on to me really exploring the possibility of being a concept artist, which is just, if you don't know, a concept artist is just an artist who does visual ideas for something, right? And then I ended up going to the school that I was showing earlier, the animation workshop, and then that led me to becoming a concept artist after school, and then I worked as a freelance artist, basically, a few places, just getting gigs, and I could have continued with that, but then I think I realized kind of fast that I actually wasn't super into drawing other people's things or drawing things for these big projects. Sure, it was cool working on a cool project once in a while, but it was definitely not where my passion was. It was more important for me to make my own stuff. And it was not even that it was more important for me to draw my own stuff. It was just important for me to write and to make up these worlds for other people to enjoy. Like, that's literally the main reason. I really, really, really like making the stuff and then sharing with people and then being able to discuss it together. I think that's just the reason, that's why else would you do it? You're making up stupid creatures and fantasy stuff. It's for people to enjoy, that's what it's all about. So I ended up learning a lot about drawing, and so it is one of the main tools I use, obviously, for my world building. But I definitely also have been, like, not writing well a lot, but just writing a lot, like coming up with ideas, speculating, I guess the traditional world building kind of stuff. So that's also, holy shit, time. Okay, can I say shit? I don't. Okay, YouTube will have to figure that out. Time is like flying. It's already been an hour. Oh my god. That's crazy. Yeah, so I'm still fairly new to the whole streaming thing, but I want to figure out a good pose for this character. Maybe I can have something like this and holding. We can hold something in his hand. Maybe it's a she, actually. I think the Chirata don't have any real difference between she and he. Like, in terms of sexual dimorphism. They're very similar in body size and things like this. Kind of like lizards. I think most lizards don't have that much sexual dimorphism. I think they tend to have a pretty similar size. So there's obviously exceptions, I think, but not in comparison to mammals, for example, where there's a lot of sexual dimorphism. Or birds, right? You have, at least with birds, you have the colors and the extra feathers and stuff like that. Swans are very similar, I think. Swans are definitely very similar. Oh, and my Photoshop just became weird. That happens sometimes. I need to save this. Yeah, okay, let's say this is Chirata. Cardinal, actually. There. Let's close that file, open recent, Cardinal. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Okay, so now I have that. So that's a pretty good sketch for the body, and then I can definitely start doing some kind of drapery. And what I want to figure out here is essentially the clothing for the character. And typically I will find a bunch of reference, right? I will go to Pinterest and then look for whatever might fit this guy. So maybe I should look at it, because I was looking at stuff. Let's see here. I just had it here before, and it was a little bit interesting. I actually really liked this one here. I thought that was super cool. And there was this, and I was looking at this one also here. It's not necessarily those things that I want to make. I just want to take some of those ideas maybe, but then all black and red. Oh, that's also kind of cool. I'm just looking for little ideas in the cloth to potentially use as a, they're supposed to feel kind of holy, right? They're holy people, these cardinals in the council. So they have to have a certain bravado, or whatever you call it. Like, I'm imagining these cardinals, because they're these ambassadors, they go to a planet and they have to look almost in connection to the spiritual. So their clothing kind of has to instigate that also. There's also some cool things there. Yeah, my eye it's just kind of flowing over the different things. I'm just looking for something that is. Oh, that's kind of interesting. That has a quality to it. I kind of like the headwear. It's very strange, but it's also, for me, a really big thing is iconic design, and it's such a. I think it's a term we all understand, but it's so hard to just figure out how something is. What makes something iconic, but I've been spending years trying to figure out exactly what iconic is, and my personal secret, which I'll reveal to all of you now, so pay attention. My personal secret is there is no secret. No, there's a secret. The secret is I think iconic design is stuff that very much feels it needs to have contrast and tension. So this one has a lot of contrast. It's a very big shape in comparison to a smaller shape up here. It's got the skin contrast with the cloth here. But there's nothing inherently wrong with this thing. Right? There's nothing off about this thing, which means that remembering this thing over maybe this thing is maybe a little bit hard. Like, I think the most iconic things are things that are very close to perfection, but then clearly has something off about them. I think that's why Darth Vader, he is so incredibly iconic. Oh, what am I writing? Darth Vader, he has. I kind of want to find a good classic little image of Darth Vader. What's the most? Well, I guess here he's very prominent. No, there actually, that's exactly what I was kind of looking for. Because I kind of wanted that silhouette, but I guess this one also has the silhouette. That's fine. I'll take that in. So with Darth Vader, it's interesting because if he, let's use that trick again. Select subject. Give me the whole thing. Yeah, that's fine. There we go. Yeah, exactly. That's great. Darth Vader, he is essentially. I can see tethered pencil here. I'll make it into fantasy. Lol. What are you trying to make here, tethered pencil? You're saying you're practicing a torso, messed up the proportions. I guess you're working on something. Maybe you can post it somewhere where we can all see it. Boink. Okay, cool. But Darth Vader, he is essentially this, right? He's that silhouette kind of. That's how we know him. And I think really often people talk about iconic design like, oh, you gotta have a really strong read, you gotta have a really strong shape design, right? And yes, that is true. Like that can be a really big part of it. And Darth Vader is super easy to draw like this, right? You know, he has that read or whatever. Like that's Vader basically, right? And then people are like, yeah, that's why it's iconic, because it can be drawn that simple. And I'm like, yes, sort of, but also this is only recognizable to us because he is recognizable, right? Like we're familiar with this character and we know him from the movies, and then seeing this shape automatically translates into that. Right, we understand that that's the relationship, but that doesn't mean that he's iconic because of this, right? It helps to make him memorable, right? But actually, what I think is going on is that his entire design is about being really somewhat sleek. You know, he has this like massive black thing, and we actually want him to just be more like. I think our brain is telling us that it should be like this. You know, he shouldn't have these things here. That's kind of the sleek version of it that our brain is kind of saying, yeah, this is how he's really sleek. But then he loses something right there, right? He loses that thing that makes him off, like that makes the visual off. Like this thing is actually bothering like our visuals in a way. It's almost noise in a way, and it makes it so that there's a little bit of conflict and tension within this design, right? There's some tension here because this is contrasting between all this other stuff around him, right? So that imperfection in the design, I think, helps strengthen the iconicness, right? And it's a perfect balance between the two, and it's a little bit more complicated than that, but I think that's a really, really big part of it for me, is that you have something that goes a little bit against what our instinct tells us for this design to work, you know. I just think it's an interesting aspect of the stuff. It's something I always try to achieve in my designs, and it's not always you need it. You need it for some characters. Some characters need to just be purely slick, like stormtroopers, for example. They're pretty slick because they don't need to stand out in the same way that Darth Vader needs to stand out, right? It's an interesting point. Dakota Garcia, Conduit character repurposed or raised by the rival faction. Okay, so that was already answered, I guess. That was your point. Yes, they're repurposed. There you go. Let's see here. Oh, I guess you're watching the stream, maybe a little bit behind, and then yeah. Okay, good. I see you. I acknowledge you, Dakota. Okay, let's get on with this guy. So I'm gonna put him in a little group here. Then maybe I'll just lower this a little bit, and then I'm gonna start playing with some cloth. And I think I'm just gonna freeball it a little bit here. No, it did the same thing with the Photoshop document again. That's hella annoying. Don't know what's happening there, but it's quite. Then the document just freezes. That's so annoying. Let's try again here, Cardinal. Okay. Then I want to figure out what this cloth could be like. I'm just gonna grab a dark red here and just try some stuff out. I kind of really like that kind of wider thing. You know, I want it to feel very pompous, if that's the word. Feel like you are connected to something bigger than yourself. Maybe it's like carrying a piece of the cloth here on its own arm. It's a little bit Roman in that sense. And all the cardinals can be a little bit different, you know. They're all different species and stuff of aliens. So them being a bit different from each other is totally okay. But I think their costumes should try to fit each other as much as possible. Let's see if this kind of works. Maybe there's something about this white hoodie. And I'm just looking at it, and I tend not to do lots of iterations next to each other. So doing like iteration 1, iteration 2, I just work on the same one until it works. And just the way I've always done it, and it's very opposite to how many people do it in the industry, and definitely when working with a client or something, then you kind of have to do that. But I definitely prefer doing it just on one here. And now I'm just analyzing the thing a little bit, looking at what I like and what I don't like, and where I potentially want to take it. Maybe I don't want that thing there. Like this has a little bit more of what I imagined. I think this is kind of high color. Maybe I don't want a headpiece actually. Maybe instead they can have some kind of ornamentation, like hanging like this or something. Maybe that's more interesting. It could also be like a series of chains obscuring the face, like that. That has something about it, you know, like a little bit of that contrast we were talking about before with Darth Vader. It has something where it's a little bit goofy, almost. It's a little bit like what's happening here, but it makes the whole thing off in the right kind of way, where the character, it feels like something kind of went wrong down the line for like why exactly this thing uses why exactly is it, why was this costume made like this. It feels like there's a story there to why it was done like this, and that makes me question the stuff, and I just start remembering it a little bit. I think I like this, and it could also be interesting to see this interpreted on different alien heads. So it looks a little bit like a lampshade, but maybe it can be done in a different way where it's where it works. There's something I'm kind of seeing it here. Dakota asks, why does using boulder brushes or tools make it easier to find shapes? I do. Why boulder brushes or tools makes it easier to find shapes? So obviously, like when you're painting or something like that, then you could use a brush like this, right? To say like, okay, I'm gonna find my shapes like this, and then just make these big silhouette shapes, and then you are finding it that way, right? That's one way to find shapes, and that works really well for some people. And you can also find your shapes with line, right? You can kind of be like, okay, you know what? This is that shape, this is that shape, this is that shape, this is that shape, etc., etc., etc. And shapes, etc. Right? So you can use anything to find the shapes and get the shapes that you want. And I think the key there is in what you want. I have found that I make the best shapes when I try to make what's in my head, right? So I'll have some kind of goal or some kind of specific kind of shapes that I want to illustrate, and then I want the best tool to make those things. And more I'm using this less and less for finding shapes. It's very good for finding shapes, but it's not so good for creating the shapes that I know that I want, because it's just a little bit less precise, right? Not always, but typically that's the case. But I also like having a little bit of randomness and quality to my line. So I have this specific brush like this one that lets me work more like line and create the shape that I'm imagining in my head, but also gives me just a little bit of randomness. And sometimes I find some, oh my god, it started doing the thing. Sometimes I find something in the line that I can use later on. So for me personally, actually, I found that going more line based helps me more and more. The better I get at creating all the shapes in my head before I draw them, if that makes sense, versus having the brush to the work. I think actually I'm gonna put the chat on the other side. That way I'm looking towards the camera when reading out messages. That sounds a little bit more reasonable. Otherwise I'll be looking over here. You have to look at my gigantic nose. That's also fine. It's also fine. But you get it. Yeah, so that's that on the whole shape thing. I think it's a really big debate, this thing of like, how should you draw? There's kind of, I guess, two schools of thought. In like, you either have a very explorative based approach to drawing, where you are doing something like this. We kind of just you kind of just go. If you get something really chaotic, come on, let me paint. What the hell happened here? Okay. My setup apparently it's refusing for me to do anything when I am streaming apparently. So you can get something really chaotic like this where you're just looking for all kinds of stuff here. Like, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna get. You know, I'm gonna get this and that, and then maybe you'll find something cool in the mess. You know, this is definitely one approach to drawing or whatever, right? That's one thing, and then you're figuring it out as you're going along and adjusting. You're like, okay, you know, here's that part there, and maybe there's a boxing glove there, and maybe there's another boxing glove there, and then this head is actually more right. So that's one approach, like going really chaotic and then finding meaning in the chaos. And then the other approach is sitting for a little bit, taking a back seat, not even looking at the canvas. I'm gonna illustrate it by clicking over to this other thing here, like this, right? Taking just a seat, waiting a little bit, and just thinking through what it is you want to make, and try to go through the iterations in your head. And I think in a way it's a more difficult skill, but it's something I'm practicing more and more, just so I can, guess, keep visualizing and drawing as I am not sitting in front of the computer, and also so I can spend less time in front of the computer, because I already spent most of my life in front of the computer. So if I can avoid spending too much time drawing in front of the computer, that would be great. But essentially I am planning all the stages of the drawing in my head, or figuring out as much as I can visually. And so for example, if I want to draw a let's say a samurai monkey or something, right? Then I'm thinking about the monkey right now in my head, how it would look as a drawing, what kind of pose it would have. I'm imagining that, like, okay, it's standing like that, maybe it's holding the sword, maybe it's leaning over and the sword is kind of like that. It kind of has a face looking up at me like that. It has this kind of quality of the brush, etc. So you kind of get the idea, right? I'm going through what the entire drawing looks like. And then when I feel like I have a good enough image to start drawing, and you could start at any point, of course, right? But more and more I try to finish the drawing in my head. So when I come down to sit and draw, I just execute on that vision in the head. And sometimes it's fun just exploring. But this thing of like trying to figure everything out before you draw, I found it the best tool at my arsenal right now. It's really, really good for just making stuff and being effective at drawing. So if I was to draw this monkey now, for example, then I could go back to, how do I do that? Go back to the thing, like this. And I feel like we're never going to get the music on this thing I really want. Maybe I'll do that after the monkey here. Just so I figure that out. But one, the monkey now, I kind of have this image of the monkey in my head, and I can start posing it the way that I was seeing it in my head. So the monkey is here. The arm was kind of like this here. And it's not a perfect image in my head, right? But I definitely have a pretty good feeling of what is going on, or something, right? And then let's see here. Like that, something like that there, something like that there, and then he probably has a samurai helmet like that. And then here I basically have, you know, the entire pose for the character, and I can start detailing this stuff out, right? And because I've kind of went through the iterations of what I wanted, then I'm comfortable with this. Not that this is an amazing drawing, right? But I'm comfortable with this decision because I kind of feel like I've sorted it out in my head, and then I can just go, and I don't have to iterate. And it's good iterating sometimes. I also definitely sometimes I need to. I do the drawing, and then it doesn't work out as I had it in my head. But the better I get at it, the better, basically. right, like that. That's my samurai monkey. It's kind of like a chimpanzee. Which, funnily enough, I was imagining a chimpanzee. I always imagine a gorilla when I'm thinking a monkey. I guess an ape, technically more, right? But you get it. But here it became a chimpanzee, and that's kind of the thing. Yeah. So yeah, planning stuff in your head. It can be super fast afterwards. And also for these like smaller characters, I've been doing a lot of 1 hour character challenges in the past. We would set up, like, we would generate 3 random words, and then you'd have 1 hour to just make something. And I definitely figured out that I got really good at making the characters really fast, because I spent 5 minutes just making that idea in my head. And then I just stuck with that and focused entirely on the drawing and not wasting time figuring the drawing out. And the more I did that, the better I got at just executing on these things. So I think it's worth practicing, trying to imagine the drawing before you, instead of just doing chaos and then finding stuff in the chaos. Because you can always do the chaos approach. That's always accessible to you. That's like, you can just do that. But I think that other part, it's something I really preach. Let's say that I preach it for sure. Okay, Cardinal here. So we're gonna want to put on some music or something. So I don't want to put any music on that will get me in trouble or something like that. But I do have music on. Let's see here. What do I actually have? Put on some mood here. What do I have here? Okay, that's awful music. So I have Artlist basically, and some of the music is actually kinda okay. Let's see here. I'm gonna just not talk for 5 seconds here and get some ambient music. Okay, I can get that one. Get that one. I get. Get that one. That also sounds okay. Yeah, we'll just grab some of these. Listen to it. There. Very cool. So there, I got a bunch of stuff there. Let's see here. Got some stuff there. Show in folder. How do I do that? There. Okay. Then I just need a new folder here on my. Maybe I should put it in this thing called music. Yeah, I just want to put on some background music, just slowly playing, just to when my stupid voice is not activated, then at least there's some music that can fill the awkward silences. I will get better at streaming for sure. I will do this again next week. I already immensely enjoyed it, and I know I kind of suck at it, but I'll find a formula maybe where the stream can really be about something a bit more concrete. I'm kind of imagining just being able to do this kind of stuff. I also want to do some Blender and some other things, but maybe we can do a stream where I let you guys know, or if you want to see something on a stream or something, then you can just let me know. Like, that would actually be great. If you have ideas for something you'd like to see on a stream, in kind of stream format, you can also interact with me, then I would love ideas for that. That would actually be immensely helpful. So if you have something to whomever is watching right now, then please write something, and I will try to do it. I'm super happy to do that kind of stuff. That's I would not mind one bit. Okay, sort by date. Sorry, this music thing is annoying me. I mean, I should have prepared this before the stream, so next time hopefully it'll be super smooth and there'll be no issue whatsoever. But good chance. Are any of you guys out there into like D&D or something like that, like playing D&D yourself, like either GMing or that kind of stuff? What the hell? You're writing all kinds of stuff and I'm totally... Transparent black jellyfish aliens with red internals. That's cool. Yeah, that is cool. I'm going to try imagining it. Want to make book covers and finishing the work in my head. Maybe I'll... Okay. If people are here, you don't suck at it. That's great. Angry People Studios. Thank you. I also love the thumbnail. I think it's great. Next one's going to be even greater. 3D environment thumbnails. 3D environment thumbnails. Oh, okay. So doing like kind of like, because I'm a YouTube creator, then thumbnails mean something different to me. But I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, 3D to 2D workflows for quick ideation and stuff. Yes, that's what I mean. Yes, sorry. Yeah, got it. It would be cool at some point you did a stream showing your process for using Vertex Paint and Blender rudimentary texture tools. Yeah, I can do that at some point. Using Vertex Paint, so the whole like coloring in sculpt mode and stuff like that. Yeah, 3D landscapes at various distances and render paintovers. Thank you for all of this. Well, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Okay, let's get this rolling here. So how do I do that? Add to VLC media playlist. That's how cool I am. And then it's just playing right now. And I'm gonna turn down the volume a little bit. And then I'm gonna add this to the stream somehow. How do I do that? I go here to over here. That's where it is. I put it on the other screen. I have three screens. I have three monitors. One there, and one there. That's why it's all a big mess. Add. I want to add a audio source. And then if I play, you guys should be able to hear that. Yeah? Just let me know if it's too loud or too annoying or awful, then I'll turn it off immediately. But there's something going on now, at least. Okay. Now I can actually look at the chat a little bit here. That's great. Oh, it's exciting. Okay. I discovered you from that 3D Total book. You discovered me from the 3D Total book? Are you serious? Okay, for those of you who don't know what that is, I'll be back in 20 seconds. The canvas froze again. Are you kidding me? What is this? This is the worst stream ever. Okay, 20 seconds. I'll be back. Listen to the music. That's great. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I'm gonna go over to the webcam here. This is the 3D Total book. So back in, this was actually back in university, I got contacted if I wanted to do some creature design for a book, and because they were apparently doing this book here, and I was like, yeah, it was totally just, you could do it for free, and then you get to be in the book, and you'll also get 2 copies of the book and a anatomy maquette kind of thing. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. And so basically I did some creature design stuff for this book, and I think I'm number 2. And there we go. Alright, so that's me, William, that's my name. Page 20, oh, you're sitting with the book, cheater. And yeah, there's a little bit of different stuff here. So, and it's a pretty cool creature book. There's some really cool people in it. There's me also, so you know. But I definitely really like. I think Alexander Ostrovsky, he's in it. He's maybe the utmost creature artist in my book. So if you're watching, he's not watching, but if he was watching, then I'd be like, I think you're great. You're definitely on my top 2 creature artist. I think you're probably my favorite. I really think your work. Ostrovsky, Alexander Ostrovsky, and he's also in this book. And so I've actually felt kind of honored to be in the same book, because he's way better than me at this stuff. But it was a fun thing, and a really funny thing about the book though is, what was it? Right, alright, so everyone in the book basically has a picture of themselves in the corner there, right? For some reason, I'm the only one in the book who doesn't, because they didn't tell me that I should give them a picture of myself. And I would totally have done it, because they're just like, yeah, I guess we'll just choose this worm guy, and you can be the worm guy. And I'm like, so that happened. But yeah, so that's the story of that book. Alex is incredible, exactly. Alex is amazing. I know. I guess there's one other person who has, or maybe there's some other people also who don't have a face there. But most of them have faces, and I just thought it was really funny because they didn't tell me, or maybe I totally overlooked it and I was being an idiot. But stuff happens. I just think it's funny that they chose this worm, and then I'm basically the worm. What the hell is this song? What did I choose this awful music? Okay, it's fine. I'll just turn it down a little bit. There we go. There in the background. Yeah, wow, what a lot of world building we did here, right? But oh, it's doing this thing again with the... Yeah. It'll be fine. But actually, I'm kind of happy I figured that out. I was looking for a way to do this for a while. But I think this cardinal head here thing, that's actually kind of awesome. You can't hear the music. It's supposed to be the... Oh, maybe it's not. It's because I switched scenes, and in the other scene the music isn't there. So now you should be able to hear the music. Yeah. I think I'm oh, it's because I'm behind on the street. Yeah, I'm not so good at this, guys. You know, I need to figure this out. I'll get better next time, for sure. We run PS beta at the moment. Works flawless. Oh, Photoshop. Oh my god, I'm such an idiot. Yes, Photoshop there's not too many bugs. Oh, okay, cool. Are you also posting on r/worldbuilding Dakota? Like, are you doing? What's your IP? Can I see it anywhere? It's always fun to see what other people are doing. You know, it's always fun. For these course consortiums, I also definitely need to figure out their ships and stuff. I think in Black Horizon it's important to figure out what a certain faction ship looks like. I've been definitely having a lot of fun doing the ships for some of the other factions. In particular, doing let's see here. Doing this was so much fun. Just for some reason, this was just like a lot of fun. Doing this specific ship and doing this kind of stuff. I love doing this, and it's not that many people who maybe necessarily care about it, but I feel like that the people who do care about it, they really appreciate it. And I kind of remember, reading school books, illustrations in school books, like history books or whatever. They were always illustrating things in such a different way, in a more illustrative way, and I always kind of liked that just the way of explaining something here, where the perspective and the scenario is a little bit forced, but you're kind of getting the sense that this was shot from space, but then this thing is entering the atmosphere, and the transition between space and the horizon wouldn't look like this, but in one illustration it kind of illustrating that, and I just really like that. And then doing this kind of stuff where you're I really appreciate this way of understanding a world and understanding what's going on, and that's why I try to do it that way, and I just had so much fun doing that. And similarly with this thing here, like the Dawn ship, so much fun doing this kind of stuff and be like, oh, okay, it's gonna land like this, but then how did they get up and down? Well, it has this elevator, and then these drop pods, right? They can launch out like this, and then they have these shields that help protect it, but then there can be flaps for dragging and then landing. I just, I know that I came up with it and stuff, but I really like it also, and it's nice if you could be happy about stuff you've done, and it's not necessarily because, oh, I painted it so nicely or something, but I really feel like I presented in a way that's nice for other people to engage with, and like to try to understand what's going on. That's the part that I'm actually looking for. I'm not looking for a like, and the like is nice. That's great, but like in truth, I'd prefer just a genuine engagement. And I've gotten so much of that from doing these kinds of presentations. I definitely feel people are engaging with the content way more, especially on Reddit, and I love that. So I'm just going to continue with that, because one genuine connection or engagement is worth like 1,000 likes. It's so it's quite interesting. Oh, got a new follower! Yay! Oh, these are the Surians actually. So if you know a little bit about the Black Horizon lore, then there are these ultra wealthy elites called the Surians, right? Surrian, not to be confused with Syrians or whatever, but it's Surians. And Surians used to be a race. This is actually a Surian race. They used to be they still are a race, but the Surians are also the race. But then there were so many Surians that became these ultra wealthy bankers that the term Surian just became synonymous with ultra rich bankers, even though there's a whole race also called Surians. So that's a little bit of like that kind of in-world confusion that I think is kind of funny. And I do have an image actually of some Surian variations that I don't think I've shared anywhere, so I'll just show you guys that actually. Let's see here, where did I put that? Horizon factions. No, not factions. Races, maybe. Races. There we go. Yeah, like this. So these are just some quick variation of the Syrian people. I think it's something I don't like in other sci-fi is when a race is literally just one type of the race. Like there's so much variation in the human race, and I really like for all my aliens or all my alien races to have the same level of diversity, if not even more, in terms of what they look like. And they could be even more diverse than these ones. These are just a quick variation here, but for example, for Syrians, then they can have kind of that variation in how this is shaped, and exactly how their mouth thing is colored and faces, and they all still look like the same race or civilization or species, what do you want to call it, right? And that's kind of the challenging part, is like making sure that they are still the same, thing like that. And here his coloring has gone all the way up to his eyes here, right? So there's almost a gradation there. And his nose is a lot higher up, and this is a she actually. And there's no real way to say the Syrians also very similar dimorphic. They don't have any particular difference either, like the Chirata. And then also, you gotta have helmets that fit these characters, right? And they have all these big things, so the helmets are gonna be a lot bigger and more goofy almost, but it's all part of the thing there. Oh, what's being written here? Let's see here. I really like a couple. I'm just reading the chat here. So, presentation is motivating. Thank you. Really appreciate it. That's great to hear. The design of the ships is really pleasing to the eye from Schultz Division. That's awesome. Great to hear. Appreciate it. Thank you. Such a good ship design. Great. William, have you tried 3D Code and ZBrush? Yes. So in school, actually at university, we had to learn ZBrush. That was part of the learning stuff, and I definitely tried and used it for 2 years, and then I left it. It was not really for me. It's if you want to do 40 million poly sculpt, or if you want to dedicate yourself to being a sculptor, then yes, use ZBrush. If you don't need to make VFX level sculpts, then I think Blender is more than fine, and I definitely prefer Blender because that's where I have all my other stuff. But I'm also super biased, right? Haha. No, I actually think the sculpting tools in Blender are really useful. I have not tried. I tried 3D Code once. 3D Code has some features that I wish were in Blender, but there's not enough of a difference that 3D Code is worth it for me. Mostly I encourage people to just try to figure out in Blender. And it's not because I'm a Blender fanboy, it's just because I think workflow wise, then Blender has some options that I prefer in my workflow, like being able to do so many different things at once is one of the strong suits of something like Blender. But 3D Code is cool. It can do some really cool things. I wish there was a voxel based way of sculpting in Blender. I would love that, but it just isn't. Sort of like Sith in Star Wars. Yes, and it's funny with Sith and the Sith race and Syrian stuff, etc. is that I didn't think of that, because I totally knew that. I knew that for many years, but I didn't think of it when I was inventing the thing. And then I saw it afterwards. I'm like, oh my god, that's so obvious. Like, I should have just seen that. So I want to, but maybe it was there somewhere subconsciously in my mind. I felt like an idiot. I was like, oh no, that just feels like I'm ripping off Star Wars. But whatever, so many things have probably ripped off Star Wars anyways. It's a huge inspiration. So but it's definitely like that. Well spotted, Dakota. That's totally what it is. Finished it. How many races, cultures, factions do you have, and how difficult is it giving them all their own design language and carrying that into lore? I'm struggling with that the most. Okay, so you are doing so for this specific thing you're talking about your fantasy IP, I'm guessing, right? So I actually approach it very differently depending on if it's whether it's fantasy or whether it's sci-fi. So I have two different methods for the things. Because fantasy has this thing where it needs to fantasy needs to fulfill a certain expectation, right? Fantasy, I mean, tends to, right? When we hear fantasy, it's definitely something that's tied into mythology, fairy tales, like ancient times. Like it's kind of rooted in that a little bit in our mind, where sci-fi is very much about the future. And yes, we also have an expectation of the future, but the future is so far ahead and can be so far ahead that it can almost be anything. And that's kind of the thing of like, we talk sometimes when we talk shop in doing concept art, then you can design something that's too alien. So you might be designing something for, like, I'll try to demonstrate here. If I was doing, this guy, for example, right here, that guy, if I was doing that guy for a fantasy thing, you would probably say that feels a bit too alien, right? And that's because some of the shapes and the familiarities and stuff are just not what you have that association with, right? Like, classical fairy tales and these things. So with fantasy, in a way it's easier, but also more difficult. It's easier to make something that fits. Like you can make a dwarf, or you can make an orc or a troll or something. Those things, they all kind of just work because we know that they kind of work. But making something unique that fits into fantasy, that's that can be a lot more difficult, for sure. And that's kind of the difference, where in sci-fi you have way more room to just make whatever, right? So that's kind of on the design front. Wait, how many races, cultures, factions do you have, and how difficult is giving them all their own design language, right? So that was the thing. So I have, for Black Horizon, if I was just letting my inner self go wild, I would probably have 200 different civilizations and races, but I really wanted to contain it and make it limited, so I'm trying to keep it to around 30, and I only pick the ones that like the best ones. I think something like Star Wars, they have a gallery of 200 different intelligent sentient races and stuff, and that's not really what I'm aiming for. I'm definitely more interested in doing something a little bit more scoped down. I kind of appreciate the way that Mass Effect did it. I feel like all the races felt really special in Mass Effect. You really paid attention to the individual races, and I still kind of want that quality. So I feel like I'm somewhere in between Mass Effect and Star Wars in terms of density. For the factions, then I guess the best way to see the factions is through this map, right, which I also posted on Reddit. These are kind of the factions that are there in the current timeline. So in the year 331 AAF, which is after Alliance formation, and these are kind of factions. But the three big factions to pay attention to is kind of the Yulian Empire, the Syrian bankers, and the Chorus Consortium, because in the events that are to come, they are all potentially slipping into the belt and claiming territories for each their reasons. So they're going to be butting heads in that sense. But these are kind of the factions that are there, and let's say ethnically or species wise, whatever the mix of stuff, it depends on the faction, like how mixed they are and stuff like this. I would say that, just to go back to the whole design thing, I think for me, I've been doing a lot of creature design throughout my drawing career or whatever. So drawing new aliens and stuff is not that difficult, or designing them is not, like, designing the visuals and stuff is not particularly difficult, but giving all of them their own culture is very difficult, because I really don't want to give something a culture that just feels like a country, so that one planet and species, okay, they are the Middle Eastern alien species, and the other alien species, the like ancient Chinese species, like that's what they feel like. I don't want them to feel like that. So that can be a little bit difficult. I'd rather approach it so that it's more likely that each alien species have several cultures within the race, right? So a whole race is not just one culture. Some races will be unique in that they have a very like singular monoculture, where the entire race has a certain aspect like that. So for example, we looked at the Carbok earlier, like the Carbok. They are one of the examples where a huge part of the race are very much a monoculture, but that's not necessarily genetically. That's just how the culture came to be, and that became the dominant culture. If that makes sense, right? So I guess I think a little bit about like that. It's a difficult thing, like making exactly the like how to make the right choice for the races and stuff. I feel like that's a longer discussion. I would love to talk about that more. That'd be super awesome. I'll find a time and a place to do that. Maybe at the next stream I can dedicate a section to just talking about how to design a race. That could actually be a really fun thing. How to design the culture around a race. That actually sounds like a pretty good topic. To just sit down and take a race and then maybe look at its homeworld and what does that look like. I have been exploring this specific race a little bit called the Tomakians. These ones, they are going to be at the heart of the main story of Black Horizon, because their planet Tomak basically sits within the belt, and it's one of the first planets that the Julian Empire is attempting to conquer or seize. And on Tomak they have a huge civil war going on between two bigger factions, and the big problem is that they're all secretly aligned with pirates. So it's a big mess. But it could be kind of fun exploring the Tomakians here. I think there's also a Tomakian in one of the posts for the Raiders. Just looking at that here. Just gonna find that. Oh, we're getting so close to when I should end the stream anyways. Maybe that's also good. What's your best tax evasion tip? These are the late night things. This guy is also a Tomakian, right? And he's kind of the king of the biggest faction in Tomak. But he's, based on this thing, he's secretly allied with some of these pirates, right? And stuff like that. So that's what's going on there. I think, it's hard, but we should find a time to talk about it. That would be super great. Best tax evasion tip. Yeah, I really want to give advice on how to evade taxes, but I don't want to make it sound like I'm genuinely giving advice on tax evasion. So I want to give the advice in such a nonsensical way that it's obvious to everyone watching that I'm not giving credible advice on tax evasion. Tax evasion. I think just play really dumb. Oh, actually, okay, this is a genuine story. I think my friend in high school, so now doing the thing I said. Any case, my friend in high school, he was like, no, you just call them and play dumb. I'm like, what? Yeah, just call them and play dumb and say like, no, I didn't get that. No, I didn't get that thing. Yeah, I didn't get that letter. No, I didn't. No, I don't know. That doesn't make any sense to me. And then they will just be like, well, okay, then we'll have to do. Then we'll have to do that. And he said that worked many times. So ads will run shortly for some viewers. I'll skip the ads right now. There we go. You're welcome, stream. And I just thought that was really funny. So maybe that's a way of evading taxes. Just play dumb. Like call them and play dumb and say you never got the letters, and then maybe they'll postpone the things. Did you hear about that guy? I thought it was hilarious. He was like, how to get a job interview, and I think he was like, yeah, so what I do is that basically just call like a big company, and then I just tell them, I ask them to confirm my interview time, right? And then he doesn't have an interview time, but he's just like calling to confirm his interview time, and then they're like, oh, we can't find that, and then they get so embarrassed on his behalf or on their own behalf that they're like, oh, we'll have to make up some interview time because clearly something went wrong in our system, whatever. And this guy is like, yeah, this works 2 out of 3 times. Then I get an interview time, so he's gotten jobs like this before in the past. I'm like, that's brilliant. That's so smart. Because that's how you abuse the systems that are so big now, that they have so many complicated systems. Something's bound to go wrong. It's more likely that something has gone wrong in their system than that there's a random guy pretending to have an interview. That's just, it makes perfect sense. So like, that's brilliant. So yeah. So that's my tax evasion tips there. Hey, are you going to enter the new community challenge on ArtStation? I've actually never entered a community challenge on ArtStation, and it's not because I didn't want to, but I just never got around to it. And let's see here. I feel like we're also going towards ending the stream, which is sad because I'm actually really enjoying chatting to you guys. But I wanna be like, okay, let's do 2 hours, and then I'd rather do it again really soon. Maybe we should do it more than once a week. Great art and great legal gray area tips. Yeah, totally. Tell your friends about the stream, so you know, man, let's have lots of people here sharing their tax evasion tips. That's why we're here. The character challenge. Where the hell? Oh, it's Cave. I actually know the people who are doing this event in Denmark, so that's pretty cool. Where are the challenges? How does this work? How does anything work? Challenges. Am I an idiot? You're all gonna be... Exactly, that's all I need. That's all I need. Learn? Challenges, there we go. Okay. Challenges. Neo Tokyo. No, I probably won't be doing it. Like, it's always super cool. And I'm gonna tell you now. The one to look out for, the person to look out for all challenges is always Sheng Yi Wang. You have to go follow this guy on ArtStation right now. If you're not, you have to follow this person. He's great. He's so great. I think he's done all of the challenges or something, and he's doing the one for... No, he didn't do for medieval back and forth. But he's done so many of them, and he does such a good job. He's my favorite. Every time and he doesn't win, I just get mad. I'm like, no, clearly he's the best one. It's not because there's not some of the other ones are also really, really good, right? But he's just, for me, he's on a different level. Exactly, he's the greatest. Exactly. This is the stuff. This is the level of attentiveness and creativity and art also. It's a very artful thing, I think, what he's doing. A lot of world building in the way he's doing the stuff also, right? Like, look at the way he's doing, he did the space one. It's so good the way, here, he did this one. He did this one, right? This was so good. Whalefall, that's what he was calling it. This was great, you know. Great, like, also in terms of presentation, also a good inspiration, right? Like for how to display the things. I'm really very inspired by how he's showing these things. I want to explore the things. I'm like, oh wait, then there's these little things. See, this is the thing we're talking about with design and like contrast. This is the design. My brain is clearly telling me that this is the big thing. I'm like, okay, I'm accepting it. But then there's that thing right there. I'm like, but that's not supposed to be there. And immediately I'm like interested in the design. That's exactly the same thing with Darth Vader. There's something going on here, right? Like there's something slightly off about it. I love it, you know. And they don't all have to have it, but it makes me think about that thing. I think kind of the red line is almost doing it here. Like, it's a part of the design, but it's doing something to That's great. That's very good. Is there a way to do pixel art in Blender? I think, yeah, there's a couple of ways. I think you could use the compositing workflow to pixelize your images. Before you end the stream, I recommend Stephen Alexa. I know Stephen Alexa, if he's great also. At 100%, I got it. Very subtle world building, that's for sure. It's kind of, I've been watching his work for a long time, and then you see that he's consequent. He's like putting in little ideas. That's totally, yeah. Stephen, yeah. I found you today. You are an awesome artist. I'm following you from now on and want to see more from you. Work, incredible. Wow, you found me today. That's crazy. I appreciate that. I appreciate all the amazing words from all you guys here at the stream, and I appreciate you guys for checking in the stream. But I think I'm actually gonna end it. I know it's sad now because I just feel like we got the convo going, but we'll do it again. We'll do it again, and it'll be even better next time. I'll have better music. I'll have a better. I'll be a little bit more structured if that's what you guys want. Or maybe we should do a structured one and an unstructured one, just so whatever. And yeah, stuff like that. So I don't know how to end these streams, and I never got to use my break sign. I'll show you my break sign. My break sign is right here. I realize you can't hear me when the break sign is on, but basically there's a break sign. So next time we'll do it a bit nicer. But I'm gonna log off. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna do it kind of like this. There we go. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Closing the stream. See you in the next one.